welcome to the Sci-Fi Queens podcast where we celebrate all things sci-fi. If you are new to our channel, we ask that you hit that subscribe and notification bell. We would really appreciate it. If you want to support our channel, just check out the website scrolling at the bottom of the screen, sci-fi queens.net. You will find information on the queens, on our shows, and a link to our merch store as well. Tonight we have an awesome celebration going on. We are celebrating Pride. And I am your host, Nita. And tonight with me is the amazing queen of darkness, Sarah,
Hello.
and our very VIP guest, Miranda. How are you doing, Miranda? Let's check in on our guest first. How are you doing? What's going on with you?
Oh, I'm doing well. Just a lot of work these days, trying to keep up with everything and trying to fit in my fandoms where I can.
That's right. That's great. Now, Sarah, queen of darkness,
Yes.
talk to us. How are you doing? You got to say that
Um,
in a British way when we call out your name because it just
no.
seems better.
Um, I'm enjoying spring break, summer break. Um, Me and Leah just having a good time. We go bowling on Thursdays. It's chill. We play video games together. We watch TV together. We go out and do stuff. It's really relaxing, and we've needed that.
Excellent. I mean, kids are out, they're playing, they're hanging out, and we are working here at our podcast, and that's all good. Now, tonight, the queen of the nerds, Tiffany, will not be with us, but she will be with us for the next Pride celebration episode, which you will find out at the end of the show when that will be, because we're celebrating today Pride, and I hope and wish everyone that celebrates Pride has a beautiful Pride month, and you get to enjoy it and do fun things, and just be safe in all that you choose to do. So tonight we're going to be talking about queer creators in science fiction and fantasy. So before we go into our slides, um, Sarah, how does it make you feel? And Miranda as well, when you see these amazing artists, these amazing writers, these amazing shows, all of the scientists coming up that are queer, and they're not hiding that, and they're proud and they're out. How does it make you feel when you see that beautiful uh pride that they have, for lack of a better term, during Pride Month?
Go ahead, Miranda.
Um, well, for me, a lot of it is I really wish I could have seen this when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Um, you know, it, uh, I've definitely always been on the representation matters. Um, a lot of the stuff that
Hmm.
I think we're all pretty close to the same age.
Yeah.
Like a lot of stuff that we grew up with, it was a very different world. We wouldn't have seen this then.
Yeah.
It just brings me so much joy that we can see it now, and that future generations, like
Yeah.
we actually have
Hmm.
come to live through seeing things change for the better.
Yes.
And like it just that just thinking about that just makes me happy.
Yes, absolutely. How about you, Sarah?
Well, and I enjoy seeing queer material written by queer people because then you know the the queer people aren't the token gay character or the token lesbian
Yes.
friend. We get real stories and we get real inclusion, and it's not like, oh well, this is a character and they're lesbian. It's like this is the character, they're lesbian, okay, and they just move on. It's
Hmm.
not it's not their whole personality. I mean, sometimes it is, but that's just people. But you know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
not it's changing, like Miranda said, it's changing for the better, that it's less of a caricature than it would have been in the past. and
Yeah,
now we get real representation and real inclusion, and that's important. Like if we'd seen that when we were kids, maybe I don't know about y'all, but maybe we wouldn't have questioned so much.
exactly.
And our journeys to find ourselves wouldn't have taken so long because, like, hey, I feel like that person, and maybe it's okay to be like that person, and that's what I hope we can have for the future, is that more
Yes.
kids and that are growing up with the sci-fi now will see themselves and not question as much.
Yes, absolutely. I think it's really beautiful to see because we didn't get to see those things when we were growing up. And when we eventually did see it, it was that token queer person that was filled with stereotypes in
Mhm,
order to make it funny. But what it really was doing was damaging the community.
mhm.
And the work that had to be put in to say, hey, we're not like that, it should have never needed to be done had those characters been written correctly.
Yeah.
And that's when what you're saying, Sarah, comes in and becomes super important because, yeah, we do need writers that understand it from a personal perspective because they themselves are in the community as well. And that's really important. And it does help people to connect better to their identity. It truly does when you see that representation. And it's so important, you know. Oh, we got here a special guest on our chat. Joe from the Captain's Quadrant. Hello, my brother. How are you doing?
I
um
do.
yeah. So let's go right into it. Oh, go ahead, Miranda. Girl,
Yeah,
just
I
jump
just
in.
wanted to play
Be
off of
loud.
what. Okay, I just wanted to play off of what Sarah had said. With actually bringing in writers, from the community, it's. I don't know if there's something equivalent to the Bechdel test, but like we started seeing a lot more properties and like movies and TV start to pass the Bechdel test when women started getting involved in the writing process. And,
Yeah.
we're kind of seeing the same thing with the queer community.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yes.
And I think that those are the things that work best. And like there's a lot of shows out there that are not sci-fi and fantasy, but have been so important to the community. Uh Shows, what is the name of that show? And I actually love this show, and when I watched it and realized it came to an end, I was so sad. And it had to do with um uh trans women, right? And it was during, I believe it starts out like in the late 70s, early 80s, and they have these drag shows and how they work together, and they take in the kids that are being kicked out of their homes because they're coming out. And
I
and the
think you
thing
might be
was,
talking about Pose.
yes, Pose. That was it. That was it. Pose. I absolutely fell in love with these characters because they really. And the thing with Pose is this was based on a true situation, a true. This was happening, and I didn't know this was happening. I did not know that gay children that were coming out to their parents were being kicked out. I didn't know this in the 80s. I didn't know that there were communities that say, you know what, we're going to get an apartment big enough and we're going to bring these kids off the streets and help them find something to do that's productive. One of them ended up doing drag shows in France. Okay, these are New York City kids. That's a big deal for a lot of New York City kids from the Bronx, from Brooklyn. These are places that are rough. These are especially in those times. For you to make it into something bigger, it is a big deal. And for him to have gone and now start his own community of drag, in France, that was huge, huge. And they talked about what was happening in the 80s. and the services they weren't getting, and people dying of HIV and AIDS. And this show was pivotal. It needed to happen. Okay. And no, it's not a sci-fi, it's not a fantasy, but it needs to be spoken about, I think. And shows like The L Word, even though
Mhm.
that one is just, that was
Drama.
just a creative drama. Yeah, it wasn't,
Yeah.
but it needs to show the different aspects of queer life. And we have shows like Queer as Folk. That one, I think, was one of the ones that kind of like tipped the scale and started these shows to say, hey, this can actually be successful if we do this. I learned so much by watching these Queer as Folk and The L Word. So much about the gay community, in the lesbian community, and about myself as well. So you learn about you as well as the community, you know. um and these shows were so amazing. And I think it's necessary to have that, and I love the fact that Star Trek incorporated a relationship in Star Trek Discovery, where there's
Yeah.
a marriage happening here. And
Yeah.
no one blinked an eye, no one talked about the fact that they were two men, not once, just that they were married.
Right.
And they took in this young girl person, because I don't think they identify as male or female, and they mentored them, and they cared for them. But never once was it, we need to do this because they are part of the community. It was never done that way. It was just about
A
them
child in need.
embracing a
Hmm.
child in need of
Mhm.
Yep.
parental support. And I love that, because yes, you saw what was happening. We saw that. We knew this was happening, but it was done so subtle that it was amazing. And if we go back to the original Star Trek, that's what they did with Uhura and Sulu. They placed these individuals in a predominantly male white environment
Hmm.
and didn't say a word about the fact that they were black and Asian.
Yep. They were just
They
people.
didn't. They were just there. And the impact that these characters have had in these different communities needs to be acknowledged, and it's huge. And this is one of the reasons we celebrate Pride. And because we are proud and we're out, we want to celebrate Pride. And I want to share something personal with you guys that I've shared with my team and with a few people, but I've never shared it with our audience. Is that last year I came to terms with my own identity as bisexual, which was a huge thing for me, coming from a cult background and years of having to deconstruct that. That was a very big thing for me. And it was a little bit scary, but my team has made it comfortable and loving. And they were like, yeah, what do you want, a prize? Like get over your life.
Yeah.
And they were beautiful and welcoming, and I'm so
It,
grateful for them. Go
it's
ahead,
still
Marie.
it's still a big deal every single time for every single person that comes out, because yeah, it was a lot worse like in the 80s and everything, but we do still see
Mm-hmm.
children getting kicked out of their homes and everything even
Mm-hmm.
today.
Yeah.
So we still got a lot of work to
Mm-hmm.
do. So,
Yeah.
when someone, yeah, has a realization about themselves and come to terms with it to the point where
Yeah.
they're ready to share it with other people,
Hmm.
Exactly.
it is important to make a big deal about it each time, because
Mm-hmm.
it's important for that person on their journey.
Yeah.
Yes.
And we celebrate Pride, and we want to talk about, and we're gonna get into the slides in a minute, but we want to do it so that people can know that these how we identify doesn't stop us from achieving absolutely anything. We are still intelligent and creative, and we are amazing, and we can contribute to all aspects of society: science fiction, writing, fantasy, we can TV, medical, science. And we're going to actually start with Sarah. Sarah is going to
Okay.
bring us a real scientist in the queer community, and she's going to tell us about it. And we're going to talk about her. Take it away, Sarah.
Okay, this is Jessica Esquivel, she, her. She is a Black, Mexican, and American physicist and science communicator. She was interested in science and engineering from a young age, inspired by science fiction films and space exploration. She attended science camps as a child and studied high school at the Science Academy of South Texas. Fueled by a strong sense of self, female, Black, Afro Latina, lesbian, physicist, Texan, Dr. Escobar used her experiences to pave the way for others. Her doctoral research focused on utilizing machine learning to analyze neutrino interactions in the microboon experiment. Now, as an associate scientist at the Fermi National Accelerator Laboratory, she's part of the Muon G2 experiment, pushing the boundaries of physics beyond the standard model. She is an advocate for gender and racial equality in science and a lead organizer in hashtag Black in Physics, a campaign to recognize and amplify the work of Black physicists worldwide. She was also selected as an AAAS If Then ambassador in 2019. Her Instagram is at Dr. Escobar PhD, and her webpage is jessicaescobar.com. Now for something a little bit different.
Yes.
This is Jessica's story in her own words from California Academy of Science website. I wanted to bring it to you because it shows you who she is. I am a Black Mexican lesbian woman and proud of all the things that make me myself. I am a badass particle physicist because of, not in spite of, these identities. The way I approach particle physics problems, the way I think, the way I communicate is unique, and this is what makes me good at my job in STEM. I'm queering STEM every day by re envisioning what it means to be a physicist. To me, a physicist recognizes the impact their work can have on society, believes engaging with the community is paramount to their work, communicates their science effectively to broad audiences, and works towards the equality and justice of marginalized people in STEM. Not because diversity leads to innovation, read capitalism, but because it is our moral duty. I've carved out this definition of a physicist. I've actively rejected the idea of only focusing on the science and ignoring the humanity of the scientists. My journey to becoming a physicist wasn't easy. I didn't fit the mold of what a scientist looked like or who could be a scientist. Most of the time, I have been the only or one of the few in the physics spaces, and the realization of the fact that these laboratories, these physics classrooms, these halls weren't built with me in mind hit me like a ton of bricks. It took a lot of time and a lot of people in my corner for me to finally realize that if I don't fit the mold, I need to break the mold. So I've been working to chip away at this archaic mold that is still trying to hold steadfast to the homogeneity of the past. But I'm tougher, I'm resilient, and because I'm Afro Latinx, lesbian, and have survived many instances of racism, sexism, and homophobia, I know that this story will end with a just and equitable physics community focused on curbing the status quo. I'm also among an elite group of phenomenal Black women physicists who have literally shattered glass ceilings, becoming the first undergraduates, masters, and PhD earners at universities, the first postdocs, professors, and scientists at laboratories and physics departments. We are a group of about 100 strong, of history makers, of barrier breakers, of change agents. Hashtag, this is what science looks like, and don't you forget it.
Yes. I love it. I love that
Yeah,
line. This is what science looks like, and don't you forget it. That
yeah,
hits home. That hits
yeah.
home right there. Because yes, it's
Mm.
she's an awesome physicist, not because of those things,
Yes,
but it's part of who she is at the same
yes.
time. Yeah,
And she's breaking barriers and molds
yeah.
and leading the way for other women and girls, and not
Hmm.
only looking forward for herself, but she's looking back, and that's important.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. Miranda,
Oh, I
you
just
have
followed her on Instagram because yeah, that fantastic. Like I,
Yes,
me
I
yeah,
I
too.
need her in my feed.
Yes.
Right? Yes.
Me too. I follow her too. I need to know what's happening with her. I want to know all her discoveries because you know what? I think that she's going to be someone we're going to follow and we're going to
Yeah, and
bring
we're going to
back
see
up
great things
again
from her.
and see
Yep.
great things from her. There's a few scientists that we talked about that we do that with because either they're very young and they're just doing amazing things,
Hmm.
or they're struggling to be a scientist and they struggle because of how they identify or the color of their skin. All those things
Their
affect
heritage,
how.
whatever.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. And she's got a mix, like she's representing everyone here. you know
Right. Get it, girl.
yes, girl power all the way. Like,
Yes.
this is the kind of person you want your daughters to aspire to be, like,
Yes.
successful. How they identify, that's individual. But you want your daughters to aspire to do great things like this young lady is doing. Absolutely.
Yes.
Yes. I mean, you're both parents. As a parent, how you feel about this person's influence.
I like that Leah has somebody to look up to that, that looks more like her. And, she's mixed race like Leah is, and, she's not kowtowing to the world's expectations. She's breaking them and doing what she wants and thriving at it, and that's important.
Oh,
And
absolutely. Miranda?
Hmm.
I just we've done our best to raise them to be good people and see people for who they are and not just what check boxes they check off on government forms.
Yes.
And I just like I said, I need her in my feed, and I hope that that's something that the kids pick up and notice. Yeah, it's
Oh,
all about
yeah.
hope. Always about hope.
Oh, absolutely. And she's doing great things. And I wanted to start out with the real scientists because that's something that's important, even
Hmm.
within sci-fi, because there's so much real science that derives from the imagination of writers. And I have a couple of authors that I want to go through with you guys because they have been so amazing. And this first author, I've actually reviewed his books before, this particular book. Um, and I want to speak about him, Samuel R. Delaney. He's an author, and most notably for Babel 17. And I'm just going to tell you guys a little bit about it. The core idea of Babel 17, a language so powerful it can reshape through itself. Babel 17 follows Ryder Wong, a renowned poet and linguist who is recruited during an interstellar war to decode a mysterious new language being used as a weapon. As she studies Babel 17, she discovered it's not just a code, it's a linguistic system that alters the minds of anyone who speaks it, sharpening certain abilities while erasing the capacity for self reflection and moral judgment. Let me tell you, I absolutely love when I read this, and I've read this book probably twice, and there's not a lot of books that I've repeatedly read. I read it on the Kindle, and then I did the audiobook. This book is so pivotal because he he started writing at a time when being out was a problem, especially as a black man. Okay. And he is really, when I read this, the first thing that came to mind, I don't know if that with the synopsis it hits the same for you guys, but all I kept thinking about was that reconditioning program that still to this day exists to try to change people, and that conversion therapy, that's what I'm trying to think of, conversion therapy, because it's reshaping your own identity. It's reshaping your own way of feeling and thinking to satisfy a particular group, right? And telling you that your way, it's, you're wrong, you can't feel this way, it's perverse, is this, is that. There was at one point where homosexuality, or anything outside of heterosexuality, I should say, was considered a mental illness. You were even put into an institution, okay? Because it literally was in the mental health book with a diagnosis code, okay? It was pretty serious, and I feel like this story tells that story in a science fiction kind of way. And I think that's why I love this story and I connect with it, because it talks about how very strict, and it reshapes and it takes your will away. It takes your autonomy away and then your power away, um, just because of this language. It is a beautiful book that I absolutely recommend reading. He was an incredible author. I'm not sure actually if he's still alive or not. I forget. But he has done amazing books in science fiction. But this one is my favorite of his. Absolutely. I don't know if either of you want to say something, jump in before we move on to our next one.
It sounds like interesting. I'll add it to
Hmm.
my to be read list.
Yes. And they have it on the audiobook, which makes it sometimes a little bit easier, um, when you're busy and things like that. And I find sometimes if my focus is a little off, doing an audiobook kind of helps, you know.
Yes.
But yeah, I really love this author's work because he gives that kind of secret message, I call it, where he's telling you one thing by telling you a story that you wouldn't necessarily relate to that automatically. And I think that that's important, right? Because especially during his time, because being out, especially as a black man, was a problem for it would have been a problem for him. So I this is so important to bring those stories to light and tell those stories. They had interviewed the actor who plays Magneto. What is the older
Mhm.
man's name? I forget his name.
Ian
And
Ian
McKellen.
McKellen.
Ian McKellen, Sir Ian McKellen, because I think he's
Yes.
knighted. And he talked about how he connected with this character because it took him almost 60 years to come out, and how he felt persecuted, and that's why he couldn't come out, because he felt like he was being persecuted. Now the story has nothing to do with off the cuff with this, but he connected to that story and that message, in this character.
Fascinating.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And
It
it's
sounds like
so
a
wonderful.
challenging read in that, like, not that it would necessarily be a hard read. I didn't get a sense of that, but just
Hmm.
that, like the concepts that it's dealing with, and that, yeah,
Yeah.
it sounds like it would
Yeah.
be,
And
challenging
and
conceptions.
it sounds like I think to me it seems like you're right that he was addressing the problem of conversion therapy, but
Yeah.
put it under the guise of sci-fi so that it
Yes.
was a little easier to swallow, and
Hmm.
in showing the world that there's problems with it, and like see,
Yeah.
this is not, morally,
Hmm.
and everything else, that it's not okay.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And it isn't an easy read if you're getting that message and you're feeling it personally, right? Because it touches you and it kind of hits home. Um, but it is a beautiful story. I love the characters that he writes. He writes very vivid characters. And Rida Wong, she is such a beautifully written character. And she comes in and you think she's timid and you think she's one way. But her knowledge is so great. Like, she's brilliant. She's portrayed as this brilliant individual. And she discovers these things, and how this language is being used as a weapon, and it is absolutely beautifully written. And I think the audiobook is chef's kiss. The reader is amazing on this book. Absolutely.
Well, good, because Mel just got it on Audible.
I know, Mel. You're being influenced. That's awesome. I love it. I love it. And for the next author, that I wanted to talk about is Joanna Russ. She's got a ton of books out there as well, and this one is called "And Chaos Died." It's a clash between rigid technology order and explosive psychic freedom. In and chaos dies, humanity has spread across the stars. But most worlds have become hyper controlled, overpopulated, suffocatingly uniform. When a starship crashes on a strange planet, survivor Jess Gareth discovers a society where people poses powerful psychic abilities. Give me 1 second. I gotta move the comments out of the way to it blocks what I'm reading. You don't see it that way, but I do. Okay, so powerful psychic abilities, telepathic, telekinesis, and more, and live in a fluid, creative, almost anarchic culture. This book is really caught my attention. And actually I got it because I want to dive deeper into this book. Because I think that the subtext of this synopsis that I found in it, this synopsis, I had to go looking for it. Because I wanted to bring a book that I hadn't read, but that was of a queer creator, and that kind of sparks the interest, and this is such a it I think it kind of gives me this imagination where I'm because we are overpopulated as a world. That is something we know. Our resources are thin, and people don't seem to understand that. And I think that this kind of shows what happens when, instead of controlling the overpopulation and finding a way to manage that, it kind of allows it to go on and on and on, and the damage that it can do to society. And I think that this is such a great. I love the imagery on her book; is so fantastic, and I love how she's incorporated telekinesis and telepathy, which is more fantasy than sci-fi, but going to the stars, and traveling through space, that's a sci-fi twist. And again, sci-fi and fantasy kind of clicks together. So this is definitely something that is going to be on us. I want to read it, and I'm going to come back with a review of the full book, read book for sure. Um, and there's so many other creators out there. Oh, I have one more. Give me 1 second. I have one more. Forgot about that one. And I wanted to share one more book with you guys. This book is called "Are You Loathsome Tonight?" And they're like a collection of stories created by Poppy Bright or Billy Martin. A dark, sensual, and unsettling short story collection that blends horror, decadence, queer desire, and Southern Gothic grime in the way only Poppy Z. Bright can. Some tales are supernatural, others purely psychological, but all of them share Bright's signature style of lush, visceral, erotic, and grotesque. The collection explores how beauty and horror often coexist, sometimes in the same person, sometimes in the same amount, in the same moment. Sorry. The title story rips on Elvis mythology, frame, decay, and the way American culture consumed its icons. Other stories dive into vampires, serial killers, and the strange tendencies that can exist inside brutality. If you like horror that's intimate, queer, atmospheric, and a little dangerous, the collection hits exactly that note. This He's an amazing writer. Poppy. Oh, I'm not sure if I think Poppy might be male. I'm not sure, but they are an amazing writer. And their stories are fantastic. I love the fact that they're short stories, because sometimes you just kind of need that quick read. And you don't either have time for a big long story, or you just kind of want to skim through something and kind of get a little bit of what you're looking for in you know in a short story. And I love that about short stories, because I think that that's something that's important, and I love that he incorporated queer atmospheres with sensuality and sci-fi and horror, and that whole psychological mystery of it. It's a fun thing to read. Definitely is a recommend. And oh, hello, Kat. How are you? Welcome. um, and so Tiffany is going to be bringing us in our next show the queer creators and writers of TV and movies. She wasn't able to do that today, unfortunately, but we are going to be talking about that in our next show. But I want to go talk a little bit more about shows that have been either sci-fi, fantasy, that have influenced you as a viewer, or a book that you read in that genre that has influenced you, that have meant something to you because you feel represented as someone who's part of the queer community. So Miranda, we can start with you if you like.
I feel like I may have brought this up. I think I did the Pride show last year as well, and I may have brought this up then. But the very first thing that comes to my mind is Sense8.
Oh
This
yes.
series written by two trans women, and then you see, like just all aspects of human relationship, and introducing concepts that a lot of society wasn't quite comfortable with, and setting it in a sci-fi, grounded in modern times, but still sci-fi world. Yeah, that I just absolutely love that show
Oh
so
yes.
much.
Yes. That show was, I felt bad that they, canceled it, but they really did do one of the best representations that I've saw on trans community. And I don't know if I'm right or not, but I felt they did the best representation within science fiction and fantasy for trans community.
Um, I I kind of find that
Refute.
hard to say myself, just because like, yeah, they got one aspect. It's
Mhm.
kind of, um I don't know, the community is really diverse. For
Yeah.
as small of a community as we're very, very diverse.
Oh,
Yeah.
I see what you mean. Yeah, definitely, because
So
they
my
didn't
ex would have
explore
like,
all of. Hmm.
yeah, my ex would have just hardcore agreed, and totally, and like I did, connect with some of the characters in that, but if I remember right, there was only one trans character, um, and there was definitely an exploration of her relationship with her partner. And it was actually the exploration of the relationship that I really connected with, because I didn't feel like they actually made a big deal about her being trans at all, which
They
is
didn't.
really
Hmm.
why I loved her. So it was kind of like, yes, but also, I don't know. It's
Okay,
just
that's
because,
okay.
again, like they didn't make a big deal about it, which was refreshing to see for once.
Yes,
Right.
absolutely. I
That
think
wasn't the whole
that's the
storyline. It
important.
was,
Yeah.
yeah,
Hmm.
like
It
it's
was just
not
part
that.
of her character, not the defining
Right.
characteristic.
Yes, that's what I was gonna say, is that it
Yeah.
just like I said before, it's not, oh, she's trans and that's her whole character, everything. It was just a piece of her personality instead of,
Yes.
how it would have been represented in the past and has been
Exactly.
historically.
So yeah, you've
Go ahead.
convinced me. I'll come around and say, yeah, that was the best representation we could possibly get.
There you go. I convinced you. I'm influencing people to get books, to change their mind. There we go.
How
That's
much
what
did
we
you
do
learn
here.
from Babel 17?
Read the book and find out.
Are you feeling loathsome tonight? Like,
I
what's going
do.
on here?
I'm
Yeah,
using language to influence you. Absolutely.
awesome.
So, Sarah, how about you? What TV show or movie or book you feel you connected the most?
I can't think of anything right off the top of my head right now because you put me on the spot. So I
I
mean,
did.
um, we've talked about Discovery and, you know, just there's just seeing people being people instead of being a token, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
That
Yes.
that's
Agree.
that's important in the books that I read, in in the shows that we watch and the movies that we see, and that makes a difference. How our perception and as a society, they're no longer stigmatized, they're just people, and that's important because that's how we should be, and that's as and being represented on screen, on page, um, you know, in comics, whatever. It's important because it's not just for us, which is good because I like being able to see people like me, but it's also
Yeah.
good for the next generation because like you've talked about it, like having Uhura on the bridge makes a big difference because she's black and she's proud and she's represented, and being there, and then in Star Trek, having Sulu actually being queer, and in the newer Star Trek movies, and that they represented that, and that's it wasn't just they honored um the original actor, and
Yeah.
it's important that we see those stories and that
Yes.
it's just that they're just stories, that it's
Yeah.
not like I said, that it's not the whole it's not like, oh my God, this is their whole characteristics, it's just a piece of the puzzle,
Yeah.
and
Exactly.
that's how it should be because everybody's a puzzle and we're all made up of different pieces that make us who we are, and it
Hmm.
shouldn't just be one big piece. We should be able to see all of the pieces together.
Exactly. And you bring up a really amazing point. In the original series, Zulu's is known for having a child, a daughter,
Yeah,
but they never mention that he's married to a woman or his
yeah.
sexuality or anything like that. Just that he has a daughter who's now
Mhm.
on in one of the movies, right? She's like, yeah, she's Ensign Sulu, and she's Sulu's Captain
Yeah,
Sulu's daughter, and
yeah.
that's as far as they go, which made it really easy. So when the new timeline, the Kelvin timeline, was created,
Yeah.
for them to go, you know what? Let's honor Takei's the actor
Hmm.
by making the character married
Yes.
to a man and gay. Okay, he's gay, married to a man, and has a daughter. They give him a daughter,
Daughter,
and
yes.
I thought, yeah, and I thought that was a beautiful way of honoring him, you
Hmm.
know, and bringing a little bit of realism from the actor into the character.
Yeah.
Um, and those representations are important. And that's something that I love about Star Trek, has always been open to these representations and
Hmm.
these types of shows, these types of information. Hey, this is what's happening. I love how in Star Trek um oh gosh, it slipped my mind, the new one, Strange New Worlds. They make the nurse, they make oh, her name just slipped my mind.
Nurse Chapel.
Chapel, they make her bisexual, but
Hmm.
they never mention it in so direct. They're like, yeah, I dated her, and they made sure they gave the person she was dating before um a gender, and
Acknowledgement.
then
Yeah.
yeah, and then they have her date this man and be in love with Spock. So you know that she's representing bisexuality. And they've been able to make those changes and do those things because it's important. Representation matters. And never once in the original series, her sexuality was never, her identity was never revealed, really, other than one episode where they encounter her ex-fiance. But again, that doesn't mean that she couldn't have had a female in her life. And
Yeah.
I love how they've incorporated it more openly without it being essential to the character.
Yeah.
And I think that's so important. And I think those are the little things that matter and make people feel seen. And I think that the next generation of queer children growing up can see themselves and say, oh, it's okay.
Hmm.
And I think that's what matters, is saying it's okay. It's it's absolutely
It,
okay, and we can be open about it.
Yes.
it's like watching Deep Space Nine and seeing Jadzia Dax and being
Yes.
like, oh, okay, I know what's going on here. Like,
Yep. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. And those things
and
were important. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
didn't wasn't her kiss? I forget the other character's name, but wasn't their kiss the first on-screen lesbian
Yes.
kiss in sci-fi?
Yes.
Yes.
I believe that they were the first lesbian kiss in sci-fi on TV. And that is super important because it broke barriers.
Hmm.
And they did it in such a non-salacious kind of way. It was very romantic. It was very in the moment kind of kiss, passionate. Um,
Hmm.
but it wasn't made into an issue. It was sort of just kind of represented there. Um, and I love the fact that her character was written to be open to these things,
Mhm.
because it's whether or not Jaxia without the symbiont would or wouldn't kiss a woman, no one would know. But Jaxia with the symbiont has embraced all those other lives that she's
Hmm.
lived and is open.
Yeah.
Um, and that really does make a difference. That really makes the storyline feel natural in what's happening. I don't know if I'm making any sense. Am I making sense here? I hope so.
Yes.
Oh, good.
Okay, okay. Because I felt like, whoa, they're doing what? Like I was in shock that they would air this.
Hmm.
Because it wasn't. I mean, it wasn't that long ago, but it was the '90s, and there was still a lot of
It was 30
stigma.
years ago.
That's not that long. 30 years is not so bad.
I
Um,
know, it's just it's more shock,
mhm.
like
Yeah,
it's been 30 years. Like that seems like it's a long time, but it's not, but it
it's
is.
really not.
But
It's
it is.
yeah.
But it's
It
not.
was, but
Yeah.
it still was that we were just coming out of the stigmas that were plaguing the homosexual community with HIV. Because it was the '80s, and then we went into the '90s, and then we were walking out of one into the other, one fire into the other, and then they did this, and we're going, all righty then. It's happening. It's happening publicly. And I love that it wasn't an in your face situation, but it was there.
Hmm.
Because they could have made the other character male. They could have hired a male actor They could have done 1,000 different things. They could have said, "Oh, I understand that our past lives, they were married, but I'm not interested." Like they could have done this 100 different ways, but they chose to allow it to progress naturally. And I love that moment for them. I absolutely do. Yeah. So, do you guys want to say anything in closure? Because we are coming to that time where we're about to wrap up, but I wanted to just open the floor up and see if anybody wanted to say something before we close.
I'm good.
Okay.
I wouldn't even
Miranda?
know where to start. I've got a
Okay,
thousand different,
so
like, me, you get me going. I will just keep talking and talking and talking and talking. Like I'm introverted
I
until I'm
understand.
not.
You're introverted, so you're not. That's right. Well, we want to thank you guys for being here and celebrating Pride with us. We are going to have another episode where we're going to continue talking about queer creators and sci-fi and fantasy. That will be June 26th at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. And Philip will be rejoining us to celebrate. And our Pride celebration will continue. So thank you guys for being here. And we appreciate you. You guys have a wonderful weekend, and stay safe, guys. Good night. Thank you for watching the Sci-Fi Queens, and be sure to support us on all our social medias and check out our website